Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning to another episode of TFG, better known as the Financial Griot. We're here, we share our stories, give our perception on just being better people, better communities. My name is Alanta Elson, one of the three co-hosts of TFG. And today we have some interesting talk about what's going on with the current climate of the economy, the recession, hence recession, inflation, gas prices, everything else. But before we jump into that topic, how are you guys are doing today? Toxic Lawrence, I'm going to skip you. Miss Lovely, how are you?
Hello.
Hey, Lovely.
Give it the hello. I'm like, what the heck is this? Tyler Perry, hello.
But no, I'm doing really good. I'm actually really excited about this conversation because outside looks like we outside. I was outside yesterday and everybody outside, the restaurants are filled. I seen the lobster rolls come out, butter. I saw Zara lines long as hell. The mall is out here popping. Nike was full. I'm like, y'all outside spending shmoney. But the stock market though is looking like y'all don't see what's going on. So it's quite interesting because we've spent like 2 years kind of inside and just to see how there's a recession coming a loom and all this stuff. But when I go outside, it seemed like, oh, we got some money. So I'm excited to see the numbers and to talk about it, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting conversation because the stock market is down, 20%? And I think crypto is down all percents, anything like 60% or anything. And NFTs aren't selling. They're not popping as the way that they used to. So I think the world is changing. And yeah, people are still out and about. People are ramping up their travel for the summer season. So nobody's actually taking a break, man. We're spending all that money. And a buddy of mine, my buddy called. He's like, yo, where's everybody getting this money from? I'm like, credit cards. We charging it to the game. You got to charge it. So it's going to be an interesting conversation about the recession or the upcoming recession, as well as what is everything you can actually do to help you stay afloat.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up the most recent graphic from Financial Griot, which I really love. I shared it. And it is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? Inflation rates on food. And we got to talk about food because, like I said, I seen the restaurants popping. The restaurants was out here popping. And according to this, it is up. Like food at home is 11.9%. Food away from home, which I love, 7.7%. And so it's going up. How do you guys feel like this is like a basic necessity that you got to eat, right? And gas prices are ridiculous. The other day I went and like the tank was half and I was filling it. What would have filled the full tank took half a tank to fill, essentially. So gas is high, food costly. And if you're like in the place where you've been listening to Financial Griot, maybe you've attended even one of those workshops and you're like, they said to put my money in my M1 and I went back to M1 and it's not looking like it's A1. So what am I supposed to do?
Probably hate that guy.
What are people supposed to do? Because we're talking about almost 2 years, like kind of like we inside. Airports are packed with people. Delta acting like you don't know how to fly nobody nowhere because they're canceling flights left and right. How do you mesh like still living, like experiencing? Because I think a lot of people are in that state of YOLO, like I've stayed inside, it was boring, now I gotta be outside, but we're also having real world problems. How do we reconcile? How do you make the difference between I need to still have experiences, but I also need to take care of my finances?
Well, I'll start off to say just to bring it back for everyone who's tuning in right now. So we're talking about recession, and the topic is recession proof. Getting into what is a recession, because we hear that all the time on media, social media, on the news, and we're in a recession, right? So
you want the technical term?
The technical term, yeah, I was going to bring it up. The recession is significant decline in economic activity that lasts for months or even years. Experts declares a recession when a nation economy experiences negative gross domestic product, better known as GDP, rising levels of unemployment, failing retail sales, and contracting measures of income and manufacturing for extended period of time. We consider it an unavoidable part of business cycle and candidates of expansion.
It literally
Recession
is
nations.
normal. It's an influx of up and down.
Right.
The question I have is, a lot of financial experts are saying that they expect this recession to occur during the first half of 2023. We are halfway to 2022. The statement is not that we're in a recession, but it's pending, meaning that it's something that it looks more than likely that's going to be happening, and it's going to start trickling down and impacting us financially, the everyday consumer, the person that's doing everyday things. My question is, I sound like I'm joking, but I'm really being serious. When you go outside, and any of you guys have been outside, it doesn't look like the mass of people are really kind of like aware of it, because like Lauren said earlier, like credit cards are being swiped. And what ends up happening in a recession is jobs sometimes get lost, right? So let's say you ranked up $10,000 worth of debt this year from YOLOing. And now you've been doing this because you have your same job, but now maybe there's no raise, or you have to downsize. Maybe you were full-time and your job is saying, well, I got to put you part-time. Or maybe you even lose your job. You start to get behind. Then you start getting behind. Guess what starts happening? You can't pay your bills. Your credit's getting messed up. Now you can't pay your mortgage, and things start to happen, trickle down. And the reason why I can say those recession is that's what happened in 2008. Like we woke up, I don't know, I remember as vivid, my mom used to give me $20 every week for lunch. And, you know, I still could have gotten like the little free lunch, but you know, your mom gave you money so you could do the little nice wings and fries and the nice little breakfast, you know, bougie out here in my little
real bougie
school.
right there. Like I only had free lunch. I couldn't afford nothing else.
So, but let me tell you what happened. So that's 9th grade and 10th grade. 11th grade, her hands started getting a little light. Her hands started getting a little, you know, like, wait a second, mom, like this, you ain't giving me 20 the way you used to give me the 20. And now I got to be in the free lunch line. And I don't understand, because I don't like this Mexican pizza no more. I don't like it no more. I like the little fries and the wings. And I started to realize, wait, something is really going on. We were young now. We were younger in that stage. But now we are the parents, or quote unquote, the older generation, where we're going to start to feel these restraints. My question is, Atlanta just defined it in the technical terms. What does a recession does to the everyday person? And why should we even care that things are up? Why does 10% up being on food really matter? How does that impact day to day? And what should we do about it?
It depends on where you are in life to feel the impact of the inflation, right? Because you mentioned food. So if you're a single person, you don't have many dependents, you may not feel too much of food groceries, or you're eating out, but just as much as you'll eat out any time else. You'll see slightly increase of food, but not as much. But if you're a family of 4 with 2 dependents, so you have your spouse, then the $250, $300 monthly expenses on food just went up to like $400 or $500, right? In terms of gas, commuting to work, if you work from home, you may not be feeling gas as much as compared to someone who does not work from home, right? If you are a new parent, you may not be feeling it as much as someone who have children older than the age of 8, or you don't have to pay for childcare. So I think it impacts people a little bit differently too, and it really depends on where you are and how it's impacting your life as well. So that's really where I stand on when it comes to inflation, because it's something that's unavoidable. We can't avoid it. You have to get gas. I go to work 5 days out the week. I have to get groceries, right? I have to do all these different things. So it's impacting me all the time. So you have to see like what step you want to take in terms to kind of limit. But can you really limit putting gas in your car? Probably not, because you got to go to work. So it really depends on how you are being impacted daily and the steps to take. If you're a single person, I guess you could probably not eat out as much as you used to, and cook from home. So it depends on where you are. I think that's where I stand when it comes to inflation. It's something that we just can't avoid.
Man, there's just a lot to be said about where we've been headed as an entire country. the last 2 decades. I think that a lot of things have been made easy. We can definitely just order from Amazon, and everything's delivered at the house, or you could just do a Uber Eats, so on and so forth. But all those things, they have a cost, especially they have a financial, an energy cost to that as well. So now we're seeing companies are roping into their deliveries an inflation fee, or basically a pandemic fee, or a business recovery fee. So all of this is not just this like 7% that we see of going out, but there's the additional cost of the extra tip that you're paying for every time that you're out there. Most likely, and that's just a broad stroke, but anytime that you go out in DC, even just two people, you're spending in a nice dinner, just mid tier, you're spending $80 easy on just a good time. So for anybody that's a family, even going to the movie theaters, that's at least $200. You're paying for the tickets, you're paying for the food, you're paying for the food before or even after when everybody's hungry. The fact that you didn't cook that day, so the next day you need to order again. So there's a lot of things that people are going to be feeling that's going to make this upcoming recession really hard for them if you're not taking the initiative to change your lifestyle today. Yes, eating out is great. It feels good. I like it as well, but it's costly. And I think when we start being honest about those costs, that's what is really going to help us move forward the future. Recession is technically two double declining quarters. That means the first quarter was down, the second quarter is down. You're technically in a recession. You just don't know it yet. And I think anybody that's going to just shop for some groceries, as you see the prices go up and your shopping cart gets lighter and lighter, you start noticing that, hey, this can't go on forever. And this is what the world is going through right now, not just the US. There's England, there's the Western European countries. South America has been going through recessions all the time. So everybody is struggling to try to figure out what to do next. And I think we're in a stage right now. If you're listening to this, you need to make some changes. You do not need Paramount. It's a crappy streaming service. I'm just going to call it out. You do not need Peacock. It's also sad. Drop that as well. Nobody needs a Peacock streaming. You might just need Netflix and Disney Plus. Amazon Prime every once in a while, but Netflix and Disney Plus, or make a decision, one or the other. But you don't need all five. You can't connect them all like it's a Pokemon out here in these streets. You don't have enough time to watch all this stuff anyway. So I'd recommend that anybody looks at the changes they can make today, cut back what's unnecessary, and also double down on just spending quality time. Act like this is March 2020, where everything was shutting down. Nothing is popping in the streets. Act like it right now, and you'll be better off for the next 2 years. Because the recession is likely to, in my opinion, we're not going to see a rebound until late 2024.
That's depressing.
It is what it is. It's as I think
it got so silent.
Yeah,
I think everybody shed a tear.
Well, no, lovely. You talked about it. This is a cycle. Before going into 2020, we were in the super expansion cycle. That means we were going on too hard for too long with no real stops, and it was bound to go down. When we thought it was going to go down in March 2020, which the entire stock market started tanking down, and it was going to take a lot of jobs, it was going to cost a lot more death. The government and people overall, all of us agreed that we needed to really help everybody. That means we did the rental, the mortgage moratorium.
We did
student loan for deferment. Hey, you don't have to pay that. We did, hey, we're going to bail out people. We're going to put stimulus package. All these things that we had to do to keep everybody afloat. We did that, but at the same time, people were warning that it's going to cost us. Yep. I think we're those kids that, hey, your parents said, hey, you could eat all this ice cream if you want, but you're going to feel terrible about it later. They're like, you know what? I want this ice cream. I want to get on in this. So we got all the ice cream at the front end, and everybody was having a great time in 2020, 2021. Everybody was a guru, influencer all over the place. In 2022, it all came to a head, and now everybody gone quiet. I'm still looking around for all the gurus. I'm like, what happened to all the trade and travels and all the, hey, we quitting our job. I'm like, I see a lot of people trying to get these jobs again. The same people that quit. I'm like, I'm coming right back for these jobs. So yes, I do believe in the cycle itself, just like you stated, but at the same time, it's going to take a while to recover. It doesn't mean it's the end. It just means that you have to change your lifestyle in order for you to survive through this recession instead of burying yourself into more and more debt and more problems.
And the other thing is that we have to also highlight the fact that there are some things that usually great things that do come out of these type of recessions. Sometimes certain industries get to reinvent themselves. We see that with COVID. I mean, it's not necessarily the best thing for everyday people, but a lot of the companies started to figure out how can we, advance technology and automation and making sure that we operate more lean as a company. I think it's interesting is that I think this is the perfect time to reset your skills. I say that to think about what skills that what I'm doing right now might not be something that a company may need in 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, or whatever else, depending on how old you are, right? Like if you're 55, that might be a whole different plan. If you're 30, it might look different. If you're 24, 25, whatever you are trying to do in the next 10, 15 years. But I do think that we do need to start thinking about like, how do we change our skill sets? What are the skills and the things? It's interesting. This is a whole other tangent. A lot of companies now are looking for a lot of soft skills because the robots are coding. They're getting that stuff done, but they're like, oh yeah, we need people that actually can understand how to problem solve, how to come out to be strategic and actually coming out to a hedge of a solution. Because what they're realizing is this generation has a problem with problem solving and critical thinking. This short attention content, it's all fun and games, but I hear a lot of managers, a lot of leadership saying there's very little bit of accountability happening. And a lot of people have difficulty problem solving and critical thinking. And these are real things that I'm seeing on the back end, talking to people that run companies. And these are the skills now that are becoming more needed. Someone that can lead, someone that can communicate, someone that there's these new level, like you see that even the CEO's requirement now, there's a lot of like, can you communicate? Can you lead a team during difficult times? Like there's a new level of skill sets that are rising to the qualifications in the next decade or so. And I think you need to start being aware of that, whether you want to run a business, whether you want to have your career trajectory, all of it requires skills. And I think so many people quit their job not realizing, like, do you know doing the other thing requires skills? Like you actually have to have like skills and knowledge and information. And there's money ain't coming down the pipeline just because you're cute, just because you want it to. You actually have to be strategic. You have to know what the freaking P&L looks like and understand how it impacts your business bottom line, your life bottom line, your everyday budget. These are all real things. But I think that in this time when maybe there's not a massive growth and things are not growing, it's also a time to sit back and say, how can I make myself more attractive in the market, period? Like, how do I do that? How do I become in demand? And I think Alana talked about that last podcast we spoke about, like, hey, I'm getting certificates. I'm going back to get my MBA because I want, when my company comes across the table as a consulting firm and they're looking at my background, I want them to say, oh yeah, she has an MBA and she has like a master's from Harvard, which I am getting in industrial organizational psychology. That's in the works. But like all of these things, it's like, I'm realizing that you want to be able to position yourself because that's what I want. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing my MBA at UMass, but I also I'm getting I'm going through the application to get the secondary degree at Harvard for the organizational development, because I want to, when my name comes across as a table, that people can look at it and say, dang, she knows what she's talking about, not only from the results that her company gets, but she's educated in this background. And these are things like, I know we love the stories where so-and-so kind of rise up and they say, well, I didn't even go to high school. Like they say something crazy, but we need to understand that that's the 1%. That's like, not even 1%, like a 0.5%. Majority of people, like there's a reason why you see people like Karen Civil going back to go get her, like even whether you believe in her business skills or not, she's sitting at a Harvard class. There's a reason why you see these other quote unquote people that didn't need this education are sitting in classes, or the executives that they put around them are people that have experiences, that are educated, that are putting their stuff together. I think in this time when something is regressing and this state, like the economy is regressing, I'm thinking about how do you position yourself to be forward? how do you position yourself to actually win when maybe things are not as hot? And I think like when we are talking about like how summer, everybody's doing everything, maybe your summer is going to be looking like you're reading books and setting yourself up to be better. So that's just my 2 cents on it. There's an economics component, but there's also a component of how do I get a better job? How do I get a better outcome? Because I know that doing this is going to really going to help me in the long run, you know? So I think there's so much to consider, not only financially, but how do I set myself up going forward?
Absolutely. And you made some great points, Lovely, in regards to doubling down on your skills.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to wealth, and we spoke about this multiple times on the podcast, is more consistency than anything else. Either you have a higher income, you're spending a little less, and make sure you are doubling down on your investments and paying down your debt. Or if you have a more stagnant, lower income, you're just really tight on budget, where the goal is to make a little bit more money so you can have room and be a little bit more comfortable to kind of fit into those financial sockets, I call them, or goals that you want to do. When the recession is happening, or it is happening in the midst of everything, we're witnessing how, I forgot which company it was, but it's been many tech companies. They're offering people jobs, and they're retracting those job offers. Right? New college grads, or
Nice. Just retract
someone
them.
that's yeah, or
Put them in
someone
their
that's
place.
jumping
Rescinding it.
from right, descending those, and someone that's jumping from job to job trying to get the better deal, which I definitely understand. But even in the midst of you're trying to double down on your skill set, that can happen, where they are taking back those job offers because as of right now, as a company, they cannot sustain, or they can't really afford to hire you on because of how things are looking
You know what's happening?
holistically. Hmm.
This is exactly, I'll tell you what's happening in the tech companies. This is my jam. I love them. I talk to, this is what's happening. When the economy is great, their VCs and investors are not looking at the P&L.
Yeah,
P&L,
money is
profit
just
and loss.
flowing. Money is
Money
just
is
flowing. Well,
flowing.
what is P&L? What is P&L?
It's literally your profit and loss statement, which lets you know, is you making money or not? Like, I'm gonna put it to you in the hood terms, like essentially what's coming in, what's going out, where's the money being allocated. It literally tells you like, hey, these are the 12 categories of how expenses are. Like looking at how are you spending money in your operational costs, looking at every single thing. And then at the end of the day, it's gonna have a number, either your net losses, your gross, all these things. But reality is, it's like, is you making money? Are you not? Is this working? Is this business model working or not? What happens when the market retracts this way? VCs are like, we're not signing no damn checks. So now, if I'm not signing checks, a lot of the tech companies, a lot of people don't know this, run on the red. They run not profitable. They run to capture market value. So that means that I'm trying to get the most customers, build the biggest team so that I can be a market leader. What ends up happening is if I'm a market leader, there's other perks that comes along with it. So I don't necessarily have to run a company that is profitable. So a lot of companies that you see that value at X, Y, and Z, evaluation is not that it's not a real number, but and I always call it make believe. This is market potential. This is what we think this could become. When the economy is not good, there's no more potential. We want to see this be in green. What happens is that most of the time, tech companies are overextended. The most cost for tech companies are the people, human resources, salaries of people. So what happens is now they're trying to make sure that the business model needs to then turn and show that it's going to make progress or show that it might potentially become profitable. So the first thing that they cut is how much people, because now they realize, well, if we can kind of make our profit and loss statements look different because we decrease our operational costs, then we can probably raise funds. And a lot of companies are always expecting, hey, you know what? It'll be fine because we're going to raise $10 million. It's going to be fine. We're going to be raising $100 million. Right now, the VCs, nobody's trusting the market. So guess what? The checks are not being written freely the way they used to be. And so that's why the companies are retracting the way they are. Facebook is realizing like, hey, I can't talk about the great possibility because the economy is not great possibility right now. So they can't go into these meetings with the leverage on the backs of a good economy to then raise funds, because these VCs, a lot of times they don't necessarily even care that most of their portfolio doesn't perform. When a VC is investing $100 million in a year, it's only expecting maybe 2, 3, 4% of those companies that they've invested to actually be successful. There's like this whole other side to money when you come to like venture capitalists. Like they money matters to them in these times, but then when it's not these times, money don't matter to them in the same way. And so tech companies are trying to look good so that they can be able to get compensation. There's a company called Bolt that raised $100 million. I want you to understand how much zeros that is, and literally raised it, and within 1 year shut down the doors. How do you lose $100 million a year? How?
Wow.
Well, you're running in the red.
Yeah,
you're running overextended.
Yeah.
Money
well, it's just the way that they decided to do business. Sometimes, some businesses start off just trying to make profit first, so that's the goal. And some other companies are going for, like you said, the market valuation first. So they try to get a product out there that they think, and they have personnel that could sell the concept to the investors, and investors they have the money to actually say, hey, I'm gonna toss my extra 1 or 2 million into this thing because I had this extra out of 100K, at 100 million, I have 2 million sitting down on the side. So that's how they go into this. And you're 100% right with that, Lovely. I think a lot of people now are coming to the realization that, hey, this game is over. And a lot of the richer people are pulling away their money from growth ventures to income producing ventures. That means they're moving toward bonds, they're moving towards dividends, they're moving for what they call safe bets. And for a lot of people when you think about recession, you think about how it looks as far as investing, you have to start considering what the business cycle is. Mm-hmm. And what does well during the business cycle in whatever element of the business cycle that there is. So last year I bought like ExxonMobil. I was like, oh, this is about to be lit next year because it's already down. Why not? It is dividends. And lo and behold, I'm up like a good, 70% on some ExxonMobil. At the time, ExxonMobil. And plus they kick out dividends. So it's all about understanding, hey, if you're going to invest, start doing some level of research, some level of understand what the business cycle is, where we're at, and really know that people are winning no matter if it's a expansion or recession. Somebody's winning. I already learned how those people are winning.
Ray, I don't remember his last name right now, but he wrote the book called Principles. He used to be like the president of
Ray Dalio.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just Google him and watch the video so you can understand. I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning, and so I'm taking a class right now called Strategic Management. And what's really good at strategic management, it looks like operations. And right now we're doing a case study on a 300 plus team, and they're having internal issues to implement things. And what I realized, like doing the case studies, is that what school does is give you the terminology, right? It gives you like, okay, this is a functional organization. This is a flat organization. It gives you all these different things so you can learn the terminology so that you can write papers and et cetera. But what I learned about the case study is the more you kind of start reading more case studies, you start to pick up on patterns. So what I'm realizing is even the great companies like Amazon and the things that are called, let's focus on Amazon, that are innovative, there is something that social media played a role on how we interacted online. And I think people need to realize, like, how does these things impact the way business is done? I always say this, I don't care. I hope to maybe one day write a research paper on it. I don't believe that we could have Uber without Facebook. And the reason why is because there's a level of comfort that people have to come in their minds that I'm just going to hop into a regular car. But you know what started to make that okay? You watching people's lives that you have no idea about online. And it's changed the psychology and the behavior that we do as human beings. And it made way for now some random guy can deliver groceries to your door. Think about that 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I think certain innovations come through how we are functioning and, becoming as human beings. And these are the things that you want to look out for when you're thinking about investing in the future. What is happening right now? What is human behavior that is changing that you can say, wow, well, this might mean that potentially in the next 5 or 10 years, here's some of the innovations that are going to come around. And like Lauren said, once, because of the cycle, there are staples like retail. Like somebody tell me to invest in a retail stock right now, but maybe not be the best bet because I know that people might be going to be tight soon. So maybe I'm not throwing a whole bunch of money into retail spaces, but I might be like, you guess what? People will always be going to no matter what. They're about to go take this. They got to go visit their doctor. Healthcare is going to be, it's pretty stable in some type of way. So you can start doing some research. But I also think there's something to be said about looking at human behavior or what's happening around you. Like, what do you do? What are the things that you're doing and you're watching your friends do that can indicate where are we spending money? Where are we spending time and investment? I love watching like Facebook do its thing because Mark is always he's hedging bets on human behavior. Like he has the data. Like I tell people all the time, like Facebook knows way too much and we think like they know what we do. And they're paying attention to when we do the scan for the receipts. You know why they take the scan and the receipts and they're okay with kicking you back a couple of dollars? It's data. It's showing what we're buying as, consumers. And I believe in the future, like AI investing might be one of the biggest innovations because AI can now pull data from what the consumers are spending from receipts and Facebook and all this stuff, and then make hedge bets on future type of companies that may be able to grow. Like I think about these things all the time. Like there's just so much that's happening. So there's things that I think about future investments, and then the things I think about like everyday investments now, like looking at the charts and understanding what's happening in the economy. So just be more interested in it because I think it's interesting.
One of the things I have done in the past and I continuously to do just to see how to compare myself amongst my peers in my industry. So I'm an operation analyst by trade, I guess my occupation. So what I do on LinkedIn to see what is actually what recruiters are looking for specifically, but actually the job description in itself. So how does that look? How do you do that? Right. So I go on LinkedIn and I type in, let's say, operation analyst, since I'm operational analyst, and I look up not only the jobs, but I filter it out to look up the people. And the people I look up to, it narrowed down to not only analysts, but operations. You kind of see the job description in the companies that they work for. And from there, I write down the companies and I research those companies as well. And their job description on specific position that they're hiring. That kind of give me a scope on what kind of credential this person have, why I don't have those credentials, or it kind of show a pattern of what I need to do for myself to kind of position myself in the marketplace a little bit better, more competitive. That's why I decided on the CPC a while ago, but now I'm actually, doubling down and doing it now. Is not only is it a coding certificate, you don't necessarily have to code. It's the knowledge of coding. It's the knowledge of medical terminology. People want to know, what do you know? What can you do? And if it's informational purposes, then you need something tangible to back it up. Right. So you just have to position yourself to use those resources such as LinkedIn that's free. And again, I go on LinkedIn all the time and cross-reference different peers and different people in the industry to see what credentials they have, the job description that they're doing. Even sometimes I will DM someone. Sometimes they reply, sometimes they do not. But people love talking about themselves. They love talking about the industry. They love talking about the position and the environment that they work in. It gives you a good scope of if this is not an industry that you want to be a part of, your current position, your current job, this is the best time to look out for other industries. Something in healthcare. I've been working in healthcare for almost a decade now, and it's been very stable. Right. So I'm always trying to put myself a leg up to see how can I stay competitive in this industry, because it is constantly changing. And it's one of those things that you don't want to be left behind because you didn't do the work, or you didn't place yourself in a position where you are competitive amongst your other peers. So use those resources that are helping others, such as myself, that you can become recession proof in terms of your income. Because for me, not only I could potentially code if I decided to do so, but I can also look out for another part-time position on top of my current position, because they're always looking for coders. They're always looking for consultants, people that understand medical terminology and billing, right, and insurances. So really take the time out to see if this is the industry you want to remain in. If not, look for other industries. Look at LinkedIn. Look at um, other job titles and people who are in those industry, and cross-reference. What do they have that you don't have? And is this something that's manageable that you're able to do? Because I'll tell you one thing, these certificates are not cheap. That's for certain. They are not cheap, but maybe this is a good opportunity that you can propose to your employer that they can front the bill for you. I know most times the stipulation within that is to stay with your job for a few years if they pay out your certificate, but that's okay. That's another recession proof. You got another job for 3 years, right? So it's something that you have to think about all the way through, and to understand that it is really on you and what are you currently doing now in order to help you in the near future, because recession is here and it's only going to get worse.
Wow, I think there's a lot to be said about this. And I like the perspective from the business angle, as to how business is changing, how people might, lose their job in regards to this, as well as even people deciding to really look back into their skills, building those skill sets, figuring out what they can do better so you can actually move forward. The only thing I'd add to this is that I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what recessions are overall, and that's my last piece. It always happens. It's always, even inflation has always been around with us. So it's not something new. It just comes around in the media and then people just run with it. But just remember that this is something that's been with us, that's continual, and it always recycles over and over again. So it's an opportunity for you to buy in when things are lower and ride the wave up again, just like every other previous generation has. So it's an opportunity for you to actually build your wealth and move forward. I think on top of that, I would say that not every recession is built the same. So we saw the housing recession that took a lot of homes because everybody was getting some private homes. People didn't even have jobs. They were getting some homes. It was really that bad. Like, you just showed up. You didn't even have to show proof that you actually went to work. The guy would wink at you. Do you have a job? You just like, yes. And boom, there it is. We're going to put you down for this loan, so on and so forth. And that's how it came down. So that was a different level of recession that people really suffered through. Beyond that, there was a tech bubble that happened. People suffered through that because everything was blowing up too fast. So there's always been a recession that happened, and to the point where I will say it, and I'll say it to the death of me, that the first recession was because of tulips. The flower, not the company, the flower, tulips. It's some real stuff. Look it up on your free time. You'll figure it out that the market really tanked because of some flowers. Some deliveries that didn't kind of make it, some Amazon Prime didn't kind of get shipped, and boom, the entire market tanked. So no recessions are the same. This recession is going to be different because it's forcing society to change away from what 2019 was to something new. And new doesn't have to be bad. New doesn't have to be like horrible. New just has to be different. That means you're recognizing, especially for a lot of people in the last 2 or 3 years, that there is more purpose than just spending money. Spending time with your friends, spending time with your family. Some people even avoid spending time with themselves. Like, some quiet time might do you some good. So there's a lot to be said about recession slowing things down. But think about it like the winter. It slows you down, but at some point, spring comes back around again and you're back active and everything is all good. So take the time that you have, snuggle in if you need to, and just enjoy the ride for what it's worth by shifting your mindset and shifting your purpose. And that's my last piece for the day. What everybody else got to say?
Don't be scared.
It got really quiet.
Don't be scared, everyone. These are, like Lauren says, is a part of the economy, is a part of life. I don't foresee it, as you mentioned, it'll be as bad as compared to 2008. That was a different circumstance, a different time. But if we prepare ourselves in what we're doing now, it will actually save us the heartache, the financial bearings and the obligations that we have to do. And also revisit your purpose too, and find more grace and a lot of things that we don't take into perspective on everyday things like our friendships, having a job, having shelter. It's not Instagram, reels, but hey, you have a home over your head. So really, really take the time to be grateful of what you're doing now and the things that you're trying to do. Love you say I'm still taking out my hair, so I see y'all when I see y'all.
No, I literally got one braid left.
Oh, okay. I'm like, she's still taking out her hair.
It's one braid left. But no, I think we did a pretty good job. Like, I just think there's so much. But as always, like, try to learn. Like, you guys know I'm big on taking action steps. Learn. You don't have to stay the same. You really don't. You can change. Like, if your finances are budgeting and everything else right now is like, you're doing one of those, that's okay. I just don't want you to be there in 5 years not when there's resources, not when there's people that like you can, literally be on YouTube and literally type how to budget. You can go to the neighborhood finance guy and literally read articles, and you can download the Excel sheet. Lauren's got like a 12-step program. Like, how
I'll be looking at people like, hey, all the solutions are out there. It's just going to be up to everybody to step up and use them.
Exactly. So it's like, it's okay, y'all. It's okay. But just try your best to actually take actionable steps and to know that you can change. Like, if you can't afford the trip, it's okay to stay home. And that might provide you ability for 3 years from now for you to go on the best trip possible because of the work, and you're not doing it anxiety. Like, it makes no sense to me for you to go on vacation for 2 weeks and then be in anxiety for 3 months. That's personally me. That's just lovely. But it doesn't it's not okay. I think I did a reel recently where I put the cost of like every transition. I want you to know, like, when you see these reels, this is costing money. Like, unless you're at home, it costs you money to do these things. And I don't want people to do things beyond their control. Like, you don't have to get the $500 perfume. They got some other ones that are really good and you can use. You can find ways. You don't have to eat at the rooftop restaurant. Like, to me, it should be the people that you're eating with. And that might mean doing a home cooked meal together and enjoying the time together. Like, we need to redefine what joy looks like. And I think too many of it is centered around how it looks rather than how we feel. And those things will help you during this time because it'll help you realize that you want to put down payments to your future self. You need to see it that way. You're putting deposits to your future self so that you're not thinking about, like, where am I going to live when you're 60? Like, I want you to be sitting at 80 on your rocking chair if you're still alive, breathing really good, grandchildren taking care, everything is taken care of. Like, that's legacy for real. Not you trying to figure out, like, man, is these kids going to take care of me or not? Like, I just want everybody to really be able to realize that you can change and it's okay to actually do things that's going to be better for you day by day.
Yeah, we're going to be those crazy old people. It's like, yeah, back in my day, there was this thing called COVID and we were on a pandemic. We were living Like, it's going to be all types of crazy talk.
I hope we tell the truth because I don't want us to over exaggerate it. Like, we was out here fighting people for masks.
Well, hey, we were fighting for toilet tissue. Hey, back in my day, we didn't have none of that.
Right. And it's like, okay.
But that's the life we live.
Man. But this is I hope everybody learned something. If you're catching this is another time that you listen to Financial Griot. We appreciate you. I hope you learned. I think we were all over the place, but all in all, thank you for listening to the Financial Griot. Alance, any parting words?
I think she stepped out. It's all good.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We're going to get socks. I'm so sorry.
You ready to go get socks? Lawrence looked like he's ready to go eat some brunch.
I'm hungry. I'm tired. Yeah, I'm about to get some brunch. You know, man. Who knows?
It's getting real.
Throwing money out here. Just throwing money. It's like, tell people to save money, then I'm out here throwing it up.
Let's go. Yeah, all right, baby. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.